So now when we speak about the cost,
Yeah.
we also speak about the salaries, right?
Yep,
Yes.
absolutely.
Because when you
that,
take a loan, you always have a calculation to repay that loan.
That's
For
the
sure.
brightest part, and
And,
that's
yeah.
what everyone is looking forward to.
What's up? Welcome back to India's #1 pilot podcast. And the topic that we thought about discussing today is kind of long, and it is addressed to you if you are thinking of becoming a pilot, if you are in 12th now or 11th or 10th. I mean, not that you can start pilot training right after 10th, but you can prepare yourself accordingly. So this is a very wide topic, and this will have many sub discussions such as how to become a pilot, cost of pilot training, why you might want to or might not want to become a pilot, the salaries, career progression. So it's gonna be a long podcast. Maybe we'll after this discussion, maybe we might split this into two, like part 1 and part 2, something like that, right?
Yes.
So let's go.
Yes.
Yes, and one of the reason why we decided to do a podcast on this topic is because you will be knowing like what all things you would require to become a pilot, plus what are the steps to become a pilot. And there are so many agencies in the market which may guide you wrongly, and we have met certain students who have lost all their savings because of wrong guidance, and we don't want any one of you to lose your hard earnings, your parents' hard earnings.
Absolutely.
That's the motto behind this podcast.
Right.
And whatever we say on this podcast is absolutely correct. You can
Yeah, we fact check
Yes.
everything that we say on this
Absolutely.
podcast. Like,
and we ourselves have followed the same path to reach an airline. Okay.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Yes, that's where you also want to be, I guess, working for an airline. So
yeah.
yeah, let's
Correct. We only talk about things that we have achieved until now, or the journey that we have walked until now. Like you and I, we won't talk about becoming a captain. We would talk about getting into airline. Okay.
Yes.
Until that, we can talk about becoming a captain. She is the person. And here we see some people that have never seen actually nothing about aviation, and they want to give advice to people to become a pilot, do this and do that, and that just is dirty. Like I feel that's just
Absolutely.
not the right way
Absolutely.
of so guidance is something that is showing you a path, right? Guidance is showing a path or a direction.
You should
And-
only get guidance and seek guidance from those who have achieved what you desire to become. So
Correct.
this is very, very important, especially in this career path, because as we talk to so many students and they have, few days back I was speaking to someone, and then he said that, my parents have already spent about 2.5 lakhs in one of the institute, and then they themselves are not pilots, and none of the batchmates cleared their DGCA exam, and it was very, very disheartening.
Yeah, and they're not
Yes.
pilots, and they wear
Yeah.
pilot uniforms.
Yeah.
Yes.
yes, absolutely. So be aware of such scams and frauds. So
Absolutely.
Sure,
So this is,
get correct
you
guidance.
can say, to protect you from such scams. And the only thing that you can protect yourself from such scams is right information, and we are here to provide you the right information. That's what we do. You want to become an Air Force pilot, we are not the ones to give you advice. But if you have a proclivity, or you are thinking, not even decided, but thinking that you might want to consider aviation career, pilot career, then yeah, this is for you. Okay. And after watching this podcast, part 1, part 2, or this whole podcast, you will have a lot of information based upon which you can make your decision whether you want to become a pilot, you don't want to become a pilot. Is it doable for you, or maybe something else is a better career for you? So this is information and data points from which you can make your decision. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, and starting with the eligibility to become a pilot,
Yeah.
right?
Let's go with a story, I think, first.
Yes.
Right? Like something. So now all these podcasts and all are available. Actually, when we started pilot training, we had internet and many data sources from which we could gather information. For me, she was
Yes.
there, and that is how we started. But in her times, actually, there was
not much resources to know eligibility criteria. Someone said something and then you believe in it and then you follow those steps, and that's how it used to be. And then it used to be GPRS on mobiles. And there was no edge also, which was 2G.
Yeah,
So
you were a rich person if you had Nokia 5800 with a touch screen, right?
yes. So that's how it was. So back then we didn't know about eligibility, but we just heard, okay, after 12th in physics and maths, so if you have cleared that exam, and then you can go for pilot training. And it was a fascination for me, yes, to become a pilot. I want to succeed in this career. So the eligibility, if we consider 10 plus 2 with physics and maths, and try to score as much and as good marks as possible, make sure that you put all your heart and soul and your efforts in your 12th exams, because airlines would prefer those candidates who have better scores. So eligibility,
Like prefer as in
DGCA,
the eligibility criteria is there
DGCA, if you consider DGCA eligibility, then you need to clear 10 plus 2 in physics, maths and English. Whereas if you consider airline requirements, then they require, they would prefer those candidates who have scored better marks and more marks. So certain airlines even have requirement of more than 60% for airline selections. So it's better to have more marks and score well. So it's better to put in more efforts and be dedicated and focused on what you are doing at the moment.
Yeah, so that is about academic eligibility, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
And apart from that, yes, there are.
So did you know before you started your pilot career that you need physics, maths and English before?
Yes, and I was actually preparing to go for medicine. So because of that, I any which ways had science in 12th. So that helped in a way. And maths, it was like dad was very, insisting that you should not leave maths even though you want to continue with, medicine, which I was not very, very firm and sure about. But then it was just one option because there are many doctors in the family. But eventually, when I got to know that, yes, pilot profession is there, and then I was extremely fascinated, and I completely shifted my focus onto this and pursued this career.
So right now, if you see, there are many students who are not from the science background and they give maths and physics via NIOS. So during your time, were there any students who were giving the exam via the open school board?
Very few. That time, many students who started their pilot career were from science background itself, and NIOS, from there, very few students did that, and
So people were aware back then as well that if they don't have maths and physics, they can give those two subjects via the NIOS board.
Correct.
Yes.
So sometimes we do get questions like, is polytechnic diploma okay instead of 10 plus 2? Yes, it is. Okay, as long as it is a state board polytechnic engineering diploma, that is okay. That is also considered to be equivalent of 10 plus 2 with physics, maths and English. That said, the university or the board that is issuing the certificate of your diploma has to issue you a equivalent certificate that needs to clearly mention that this is of equal or higher standards than 10 plus 2. If as long as that is there, yeah, that is considered to be equivalent by DGCA and is acceptable instead of 10 plus 2, which is 10 plus 3 if you look at, or sometimes 10 plus 4. That is how it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So academic requirement, okay, that is one eligibility. Again, another question is what is the height requirement for pilots? So you are the tallest person. so so what is the height required for pilot training?
So generally, if you see any airline vacancy, there is no requirement of height mentioned in that particular vacancy. So few airlines mention the requirements, few don't. And on an average, if you see, the general height requirement is 154 centimeter for most of the airlines. But there is something called as cockpit assessment test for a particular aircraft. So let's say if someone is flying A320, so there is a cockpit assessment test for that person to be able to reach all the flight controls and operate the flight safely. So a person can take that test and then they can go for the type rating, or let's say if they are flying the Cessna, so there is a cockpit assessment test for that as well. So there's nowhere written that you need 150 centimeter, 154 centimeter. So it all depends upon the airline, to be honest.
Yeah. Also, it's like cockpit assessment test is basically being able to reach all the controls that there are and all the switches and buttons and push buttons, whatever that are there. The point is, few pilots actually are even 152 centimeters also. Now, how and they have done it, I don't know, but some get accepted that way as well. Unless there is, I believe, a specific requirement mentioned by the airline, such as 160 centimeters, then yeah.
So it's dependent on various criteria. So because of the airplane is different for that particular airline. So that's the reason why they might put that criteria. But generally on narrow body airplanes, the seats are quite ergonomic, and you can adjust seats in order to reach controls with average height of pilots. But anything above 150 is okay.
Yeah, A320 has electronically operated seats, guys.
Yeah.
It just moves with a motor noise.
Then very important one is you need to know that you don't have any medical condition as such. Medical condition in the sense certain things like, for example, color blindness, which is very, few students after they enroll and then they find out in their class 2 medical that there is partial color blindness. So in that case, then they have to drop out from this career. So it is very much required that you know that you don't have any medical condition. If you're not sure about it, then it's definitely better to get your class 2 medical done.
Yeah, let's do a color blindness test real quick now.
Yeah, there is a reel that we have shared on.
Yeah, I know.
But
All right, who's doing the honors?
Anyone can do.
Okay.
How do we see? So
Read this.
8 and 9.
Okay, who can? All right, Chintan, you read this, and I'll keep on flipping the pages in front
Should I?
of. No, I'll do it. Yeah, I can. Yeah. So I can see can Chintan read as well.
Yeah.
This is
29 and
Ishara test
57.
for color blindness or color deficiency.
5-3.
Oh, sorry. वापस मैं बोल रही थी.
15.
That's okay.
74. You can say now, na? 2-6. The whole
Guys,
test.
No, we are gonna go all
97,
the way.
45. 5-7. 1673. रिफ्लेक्ट हो रहा है. This is no number.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Abstract.
Same, no number.
You sure about that?
Yeah, 100%.
You could. Yeah, so guys, that is one of the ways color blindness is or color deficiency is tested for. And if someone is having difficulty in seeing those numbers, don't worry about it. Aviation is not the only field. Okay, there are many good fields. It's all right. Okay, it's like, don't judge yourself too hard in case there is anything like color deficiency condition or something. There are many careers that are completely unaffected despite of having color deficiency. Only it's about pilot career where pilots need to see the screens in which certain information is color coded, and to decode that information you need to have that color perception. And not
Absolutely.
having that color perception may not be okay for pilots. So why we did this just fun exercise is because many people don't know until they are like even old that they ever had color blindness, because the perception of a color and its linkage with the lexical understanding. Like, if I was taught in my childhood that this kind of pigment, which is kind of sky blue or bluish kind of thing, its name is yellow. Okay, my understanding of that color is yellow. I'll call it yellow, and if everyone else is calling it blue. Okay, so because in childhood itself you see that color in a different way and name of that color has been given something, many people just don't understand that they have ever had color blindness. Like, we have had students whom like 2 students last year that they didn't know that they had color blindness. Their parents were in denial that my child cannot have a color blindness or color deficiency, and we feel sorry for them. But good thing is that they identified it way before putting any money into it, right?
Correct.
And at CNTAA, if any student is declared to be permanently unfit during their tenure of their preparation for DGCA exams, their fees are refunded. That is the only condition on which fees are refunded. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway.
After submission of
Yeah.
proper
Yeah.
proof.
Sure. Definitely.
Like-
Check out the terms of use.
Yes, and for the class 2 medicals, first of all, let's say if someone is in 11th and 12th and want to go ahead and do their class 2, they can do it.
Yes,
They
yes.
can do it after 10th as well.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
What they will have to do is they'll have to register themselves on EGCA.
Yeah.
And then go ahead and get the class 2 medical done. So the medical is valid for 2 years. And once you get your class 2 medical assessment, then you go for the class 1 medical.
Correct.
So if a student has cleared their class 2 medical, most likely they will clear their class 1 as well, because most of the tests are same. There are 3-4 additional tests which they have to undergo, and the tests are more stringent, I would say, in the class 1.
Yeah, so class 2 medical, 1 medical, the common tests are like CBC blood test, that is complete blood count, then urine routine test, then there is ECG, X-ray, chest, then ultrasound of pelvis and abdomen and pelvis. So that, then audiometry, eye checkup with your fundus dilation and all, and ENT, in which audiometry is also the part of it, and physical examination. So these tests are conducted, and these are pretty much common in both. And in class 1 medical, these tests are conducted depending on whether you go at Air Force Station or Civil Center. Those tests will be conducted under the guidance or by Air Force doctors or in civil centers with civil doctors. So
Absolutely.
that's how it is. So once the class 1 is done, then you can go for flight training. So it is very important that you think that you want to become a pilot and you have that desire to become a pilot, then after 10th also class 2 medical can be done, and then you can start your after 12th DGCA ground classes. And make sure that before you put in a lot of money for flight training, you have class 1 medical assessment.
Because the point is, some students don't understand that if they are going abroad, they'll do a class 1 medical. Say someone is going to USA for their pilot training, they'll do their class 1 medical for FAA, and which is way easier than that of DGCA. But the point is, even though you don't need class 1 medical right now to fly in the US, DGCA class 1 medical right now to fly in the US, get it done, because ultimately you want a DGCA license, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is about medicals. And medicals, physical tests. Okay. Now the DGCA also has added a mental health side to it. So there is certain questionnaire on to verify that you have been having a good mental health. Okay. Most people do have good mental health, some may not. So if there is anything to be addressed there, it needs to be. Okay. And in pilots, it's like it's very important to self-declare things, right? Like if something is wrong, it is necessary to be self-declared. Okay, so be careful about things. Do not lie in any of questionnaires, such as have you had any surgeries in the past, or have you many things like that. Okay, do not lie in any of this, because anytime anything happens, actually any incident, smallest of the incident, all the records of that pilot are checked. Okay, so yeah. Don't lie. That's what it is. Medicals done.
Funds.
You sure that was abstract, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, funds. Go. Who's going about funds? The topic that nobody wants to talk about. Well, it is expensive, guys. Okay, I'll take this one. It is very expensive. We oftentimes get asked that, are there any scholarships? And whenever we get asked that question, it feels bad to say no. But there are not enough scholarships in this. Actually, there are not. And why is pilot training so expensive? That is a discussion for a completely different podcast. Okay. Airplanes are expensive. They consume a lot of fuel. Their maintenance is expensive. The instructors have good or above average salaries. And that makes whole training cost expensive, to cut it in short.
Yes, definitely.
Right? And you have to do 200 of those hours. Now, someone has to fund those hours. And it's usually in class 12th, it's parents. Okay. Are loans available for this? You take that question.
Loans are available for pilot training, but when we speak about pilot training, it's a vocational course, and there are two separate courses. One is degree course, for which you get educational loan. As pilot training is a vocational course, you get loan against the collateral. So a person or a student has to have a property which they can give it to the bank, and depending
give as in put as a collateral, as a mortgage. Yeah.
Yes. So the loan approval amount will be around 50 to 60% of the collateral value of the property value. And there's a website called as gyantan.com where a student generally applies for their pilot training loan. Plus banks like State Bank of India and Bank of Baroda provides a loan for pilot training. And generally the interest rate is around 10 to 12% for such type of loans.
Yeah, that varies time to time and bank to bank and lender to lender, right? But yeah, it is around, correct, like 10 to 12%.
Yes.
That sounds about right. Yes, so loan is available, but for that a collateral mortgage is required. Apart from that, you need to have a repayment plan for loan as well. Loan is a loan, it has to be paid back, and yes, salaries will pay it back as you get a job. But
Correct.
right after finishing pilot training, expecting immediately to get a job can be a financially difficult position.
Correct.
So what we talk as we coined the term buffer period. Explain about buffer period. What is buffer period?
Yes.
Guys, we talk
Now-
about these things so many times. The point is, right now is the time you are giving exams. So you probably are giving exams for 12th and you watch this podcast and you are getting closer to starting your pilot career. So we just wanted to brush up on each of those topics. Buffer period.
Yes, buffer period, so which we generally keep on repeating this terminology in many of our podcasts as well as reels. But to tell you in short, that is a time period which you need to keep as buffer after you get your CPL till the time you get the first job in an airline. So this period is very crucial, and it can range from 6 months to on an average about 2 to 3 years. If I tell you about myself, it was longer than that, about 6 years, because back then, whoever students started their pilot training back in the year 2006, end of 2006, that time there were so many job opportunities, and many pilots were there in the training. And under training period, since on an average time it takes about 2 years, so by the time we finished our pilot training, we got our CPL in 2008. In 2008 mid, we applied. That time there were a lot of jobs. From 2004 to 2008, there were many airlines which came up with vacancies, like Air India. That time there was Kingfisher, then Deccan, and so many airlines, Air Sahara. So many airlines job openings were open at that point, but we were in training phase, and we were like looking forward to get done with the CPL. And the moment we finished our CPL, yes, even in my case, I applied for a job in Jet Airways, and Jet Airways vacancy was open, and I was so happy that immediately after CPL I am getting an opportunity to write an exam for an airline, and cleared all the assessments till interview, and thereafter recession hit.
Okay.
I did clear written, I did clear their group discussion, and then there was interview. So there was no psychometry that time, because it started off after an accident which happened in 2015. So after that psychometry started, but back then there was no psychometry. So that phase was that part was
But I remember telling us about that, telling me about that paper folding and all of those. That's not a psychometry, I understand, but that is still a pilot aptitude test, right?
No, that was later in
Okay.
2012, 13.
Okay, so this is 2008.
This
Okay.
was 2008, yeah. So in 2008, then I cleared all those assessments, and was waiting that, okay, now we'll get a final mail that, okay, you've cleared interview, and then, you're a part of the airline. But unfortunately, global recession hit, and all airlines canceled their vacancy, like including Jet Airways. So they canceled vacancy. They said you're put on hold, and that vacancy was completely no longer applicable, and it was scrapped. So that happened, and afterwards, so we were waiting. I continued to study. I did my multi, and then back then, since Jet Airways had Boeing 737, so I did not have multi-engine rating. So then did multi-engine rating thereafter. So continued with the DGCA ground class, and thereafter continued with it. Was waiting for the next opportunity. In 2011, Kingfisher shut down. So things were not really working in favor of Indian aviation, and there were not many jobs available. And thereafter, first time vacancy was open in 2014 for all all India applicants of CPL. And in meantime, many Kingfisher pilots who lost their job because the airline shut down, they were absorbed in other airline which has Airbus 320, the same fleet. And that was the reason why the largest carrier in India, which is there present, they absorbed many of those pilots, and almost all the requirement was over by their induction. Because of that, there was no vacancy for another 3 years. So that period was a dark period in the career. But yes, the ground classes.
So how did you decide to start with CNTAA in 2008?
Yes, so in meantime, right from 2008 till 2014 and 15, when I actually got my first airline job, in meantime, my love for aviation did not die, and I wanted to continue to stay in touch with these pilot studies. And because of that, that was always there in my mind. But one of my friend, so she said, Evita, if you're watching, then
Avatar or
yes,
drugs.
Evita. So she said, can you take my navigation studies?
You're
and,
imitating her. Yeah, do that again. Yeah, Avita speaks in that. Yeah, she's a singer.
yeah.
She also sings. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, can you take my navigation studies? I'm not following so and so. So I took certain topics for her. And then since back then, the flight school where I did my flight training, they appointed me as a ground instructor, followed by that. And then I started teaching there for a few months. And then I wanted to, like, those students said that we want you to teach for all the subjects. We don't want you to teach only for one subject. So that's when birth of CNTAA started. This was back in 2008. Yes, so that's how we actually started CNTAA. And from that day onwards, I was quite happy to teach students at CNTAA for all subjects, and that's how I continue to stay in touch with this. Even though I applied in almost all the airlines in India, but despite of that, not all candidates were invited to write written exam of the respective airline. And that was the reason. And since there was no one in aviation from family, it was very difficult to get hold of someone to whom you can approach and you can figure out what is happening, whether you are anytime going to get an opportunity to write the exam or not. But scenario changed in 2014 when again more number of aircrafts started coming to India, and then number of pilot requirements also increased. And that's when airlines started coming up with all over India vacancy. And that was the time when got through. In 2015, cleared the entire airline assessment, followed by that type rating and then airline training, and 2016 got released as a first officer. So this buffer period, if you talk about, for me it was longer, about 6 years, whereas if you talk about students who completed their pilot training in 2018, within 6 months they have landed up in airline job. So it is not a certain period that you need to be really worried about, but it depends on aviation market in India at that point. And to make sure that you actually get through any first opportunity that comes to you, you really need to be prepared well. And that's in your control.
Control the controllables, right?
So, what do you think is the average buffer period right now seeing the growth of Indian aviation sector?
So currently, students who are getting the CPL, like our student who got the CPL, in very next month he got an opportunity to write airline exam. So
And he passed too.
and he passed. Yeah,
Yes,
he's
yes.
going for a TR, and it's not one student. So many are, getting an opportunity that way, and if
Yeah.
they are, if they prepare well, definitely they will get through.
Correct. But still, we call the buffer period as 2 to 3 years of buffer period,
Yes,
right?
on an average.
Because assuming the industry will remain to be exactly the same way that it is right now is good, is optimistic, but hope for the best and prepare for the worst kind of situation. If you are financially prepared for 2 to 3 years of buffer period, you're good. And why not 6 years? Okay, is because the industry size when she finished her CPL was relatively very small in comparison to what it is right now.
Yes, true.
Correct,
Yeah,
correct.
and that is why 2 to 3 years of buffer period, if you are dedicated enough, is long enough buffer period. So why and what does this mean exactly to you? Is for those, if you are borrowing loan, then for those 2 to 3 years you need to be able to pay your EMI without any source of income from your CPL. That is what this means. That is what financially buffer period means for you. Okay. Again, when you join an airline, like the moment that you sign on that page and yes, and a so and so pilot, XYZ airline. I was about to say the name of the airline, so that's why I kind of stuttered. Okay. Yeah. So that is a significant day. That makes you feel like, okay, I have something to look up to for my career, right? Like my working life. Now, from that day, actually, to get to cockpit, it still takes almost 1 year. And during that 1 year, the salaries are not as high. That is also part of this buffer period.
Yes,
Right?
definitely.
Because the loan is not going to ask you that whether how much is your salary, or that depends on the EMI that you have set at the time of borrowing, right? So consider those things, consider the buffer period, and accordingly financially plan. Okay. Funds, I think we have spoken a lot about it.
Yes, yes,
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
definitely.
Now another question that we get asked a lot is lately I was like, didn't have many answers to the person. Was like, we many times do over call or over Zoom consultations, one-on-one consultations to our students. Team CNTAA does that. We individually also do that. To that, they want advice. Yeah, we do speak with them. One of the person asked us that Singapore Airline Cadet Pilot program is open. Then another one asked Chintan that, I have done my CPL from Saudi. I'm an Indian citizen. And yeah, shed your perspective on that.
So actually, that guy reached out to me from my Instagram, and he's like, I want to convert my license into DGCA CPL. And I asked him the reason, why do you want to convert? He's like,
Which license did he have?
so he told me he has an EASA license with frozen ATPL, and he has done his training from the Gulf. So it might be something which is EASA certified, but is technically
it is
having
ICAO certified.
yes,
maybe.
ICAO
Yeah,
certified, and it is a frozen ATPL. So now that guy might have been misled to do his training from the Gulf. So I asked him a couple of questions. Who guided you? So it was his friend. He was not a pilot. Secondly, he didn't have maths and physics in his 10+2. Okay, and he got his CPL, and he's not able to work there because when you go abroad or when you work outside of India, you need to have 1500 hours and an ATPL to work outside of India. India is the only country I would say who let you work for an airline with a frozen ATPL or after you have an ATPL, right? So he was stuck in the Gulf. He didn't know what to do. So I asked him, now you have to come back to India. You have to give your maths and physics for NIOS, then join DGCA ground school to clear his 3 papers, then do his GFT day night, and meet the DGC requirement. So I haven't asked him the training which he did in the Gulf, because as per DGCA you need 100 hours solo. Out of that, 50-hour cross country is there. So it's because of this misguidance.
And that is
He's
not
in a mess.
that is not actually conversion of license. That is issuance of license, because frozen ATPL is not a license.
Correct.
Frozen
Correct. No, it's
ATPL
not a license.
is not a license. Okay, frozen ATPL is just a paper that I have cleared these papers.
Correct.
That don't mean anything for
The hours required haven't been met. So 1500 hours is the minimum requirement to get any TPL. Plus there are a lot of terms and conditions to get that as well. So that person, because of this misguidance, is stuck in the Gulf. He has spent the money. Now he's clueless, like what to do, because he has already spent so much amount, and now he has to come back to India and do that whole process, which will take a year or a year and a half.
Correct.
Okay, so like in 2 years, if he would have spent that amount with proper guidance, he would be preparing for the airline interview now.
correct.
So that is the reason we are doing this podcast, to provide you the best information and the latest updated information about pilot training in India.
Correct. Correct.
Yep. So that is what misguidance results into. A lot of waste of money eventually, and hard-earned money in some cases.
So what I believe is the students, let's say, who have just cleared their 12th exam, if someone tells them, okay, I'll give you a guaranteed job, okay, after your pilot training. So they are sold on that. But if someone gives you a guaranteed job, that is the first red flag. Like, just run away from there, because in aviation, there is no guaranteed job.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely.
No one can give guarantee whether you get a job or no. There is, for cadet pilot program, there is assurance, but there's only one cadet pilot program which is the best in India.
Yeah.
Okay. And other than that, if someone gives you a guaranteed job, that is completely a false claim. You should run away from that person or that institute.
Absolutely.
Okay. And apart from that, they will promise you 10 lakh salary per month.
Yeah, we just saw an ad.
7 lakhs pilot needed. Okay.
8 lakh pilots needed.
Yes.
Where are 8 lakh pilots needed? Like where?
Let's do the calculation.
Yeah. Like, no, I mean, that is epitome of misguidance. Hey guys, like, bro, 8 lakh pilots needed. Someone clips that and that'll.
We are
guys,
not playing.
we are no. Okay. Here's the thing. Where did that number come from? Actually, nowhere. No, not 8. By any stretch of means, 8 lakh pilots are not needed.
Because if you
This
see
was
the
an ad by someone, one of the aviation institute. and
one of
that's
the
what we
aviation scammers. Okay, not institutes. Scammers.
Yes.
Okay. The ad narrative was like 8 lakhs pilot needed. Guidance provided starting from scratch until 10 lakh rupees salary.
100%
100% job placement guarantee. When you see anything like this, guys, you are way better than that. You are watching this podcast and you can never be victim of such misguidance. Okay, so yeah.
And plus the one more thing which I have come across is pilot training in 25 lakh rupees in Argentina and all those places, including the accommodation, food, and 250 or I don't know how many hours. So it's practically, even if you calculate the per hour fuel cost of an aircraft, 250 hours, you won't meet that. And the institute is telling students, okay, government of Argentina is giving subsidy. I'm like, why will government of Argentina give subsidy to Indian students? Okay, so if you think that something is too good to be true, don't accept it. But
Yeah.
do your own research, because you guys are smart enough. As we call Gen Zs are always smart enough. They
Yeah.
get the work done very efficiently and in less time than we used to do.
Yeah.
Right? So you guys are smart enough. Okay, see what is right, see what is wrong, and then decide.
Yep. Whichever country you want to fly from, that's okay. But make sure it is one of these countries that we mentioned now. Okay. India, New Zealand, USA, Canada, Australia. 5 countries. Look no further beyond these countries. If you still want to, South Africa. Nothing more than this. Okay, that's it. 6 countries. That's it. Okay, in no specific order. About order, we have spoken in another episode of podcast. You may choose to agree it. You may not choose to agree with it. That's your choice. Okay, but choose from these 6. There is nothing good if you go beyond these 6. Yeah.
And if we filter out the best out of this 3 is India, US, and New Zealand. Other countries we generally don't recommend, because there have been instances in the past with the students, especially South Africa,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, stick to these 3 countries if you don't want to research about and
True.
then speak with students, speak with flight school. Everyone will tell you different stories, right?
Yeah.
So in my personal opinion, the 6 countries are good. But if you ask the best out of this
No,
6,
good. No, these 6 countries are the only countries where you can do. Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely.
For Indian pilot career. Okay. That is,
yes, and plus when you go abroad to do your training, you have to make sure that you follow each and every DGCA regulation or each and every DGCA requirement. It should not happen that you are doing some other training abroad and then you come back and you realize, oh, I have forgotten 50 hours of cross country.
Yeah.
Because the definition of cross country is different for different governing body. For DGCA, it's 100 nautical mile. Now, if you speak of FA, it's 50 nautical mile.
We have highlighted this in another podcast. The link will pop up at the top, and you can check out for more details.
Watch this full episode first and then go there. All right. Yeah. So that is about countries to fly from. Okay. And even if you keep our bias aside, these 6 are the only countries. Okay. That anything you go beyond this, it's a trouble. Okay. It is a trouble for license conversion. As simple as that. Okay. Now, how to become a pilot. Okay. Now,
how to become, I can just list down the points. That's what we are doing, right? First is once you're done with the eligibility, once you identify yourself, okay, you are ready to start. Then, as we discussed, we start with medicals. Once the medicals is done, you can start with your DGCA exam. So join the appropriate best ground school, which is available in India, right? Yep. So for that, let's say if you're planning to do your training in India, then 5 subjects plus the RTR exam. If you're planning to do it in abroad, if it's a Commonwealth country, you don't need RTR. If it's not a Commonwealth country, 3 DGCA exams plus the RTR.
Yeah. Okay. So what are those 5 subjects?
Yes. So if you want to do flight training in India, in that case, navigation, meteorology, air regulation. In addition to that, technical general and technical specific. These 5 subjects need to be cleared. And in addition to that, RTR as well.
Okay.
And as you said, if you want to do flight training in abroad, in that case, navigation, meteorology, and regulation. And Commonwealth countries are Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. Out of
South Africa as well.
These, which countries which we just mentioned. So if you're doing flight training from there, then you need not clear RTR exam in India. And if in case you are doing from USA, let's say, then you
do need to clear
RTR. Yeah.
Okay.
So
now just brushing the surface.
Yeah.
What is navigation? What is meteorology? What is air regulations? What is technical general? What is technical specific?
Yes. Okay, air navigation. So when we want to navigate, what is the meaning of navigation on the road? You want to go to a certain place A to place B. You will, in Google Maps, you will put, okay, the name of place B, and then that will show you the road pathway. So in that manner, in air, there are no marked roads. So because of that, we call it as airways. So how do you track yourself from place A to place B? The entire study of that subject is in air navigation, which is subdivided in general navigation, radio aids, flight instruments, mass and balance, flight planning, aircraft performance. So all these things are included in air navigation Indian DGCA syllabus. Then if you talk about aviation meteorology relates to weather conditions in flight. So when you are flying, then whatever weather you experience, and what are precautions to be taken if you encounter a CB cloud or cumulonimbus cloud, which you might not have heard, but if you have heard, then it's one of the most dangerous cloud which pilots should avoid while flying and not enter that cloud. So what are threats associated with it? So if you know it, then you will not enter. If you don't know it, you may not know the dangers associated with it. So those things, what are weather reports, how to decode that, what is weather at destination, at alternate airports, that, and forecast weather. So these things need to be known to pilot before departure, and that's what is there in meteorology. If you talk about air regulation, that relates to air law, basically all the regulations that you need to follow while flying in air. So that has Indian Aircraft Act, and apart from that, there is what are the signs on the airport, what are operational procedures, what are flight duty time limitations. Apart from that, personal licensing requirements, how many hours you need to do, and many things associated with that. Apart from that, human factors and human limitations. So that will also include like what are your personality traits, and then crew resource management, those things. Then hypoxia, effect of low pressure and low temperature when you are flying at higher altitude on human body. So these things are covered in air regulation.
Yeah, how airport markings are there, how
that
all of
that
those
is all
things,
there.
right? And the
Yes,
lighting,
yes.
airport
Correct,
lighting, the
correct.
separation, the RVSM,
Absolutely.
CVSM, all of those
Absolutely.
things, part of air
Yes.
regulations. Yeah. Next.
In technical general, there is principles of flight, in which there will be explanation about how lift is generated and how an aircraft flies. That's pretty interesting. Apart from that, there is a working of jet engine, piston engine, all the aircraft systems, electrical systems, etc. So that is all covered in technical general. And then technical specific is related to that particular type of aircraft. Like, for example, if you want to drive, let's say, one specific car, then all specifications of that car will be there in a manual. In the same manner, if you want to fly, let's say Cessna 172, then specifications of that, like what is takeoff speed, what is approach speed, then what is stalling speed, then what is dimensions of the wing, and amount of oil, fuel,
Types of
all of
wings
that.
and all of that.
So
right?
that is all covered in technical specific. So that's how these subjects are. And
Right.
RTR is basically radio telecommunication with ATC. And once you get that license, then only you will be able to apply for CPL.
Yeah. So
So
that is
that-
about DGCA exams. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now you continue back to yeah.
So to give DGC exams, there's something called as computer number, which has to be applied for, and it's like an enrollment number for a student pilot. Once you have that computer number, then you are eligible to apply for DGC exams. So once DGC exams is done, once RTR is done, If you're planning to go abroad, you start the application for your pilot training abroad. If it's in India, you do the application for an Indian flight schools. Now when you do the flight training from India, once you're done with the training at 200 hours, you directly apply for the CPL. You get the CPL, and then either you go for TR or wait for CPL rated vacancies. Now when you go abroad for your flight training, you complete your flight training, you meet the DGCA requirement, then you come back to India, you do the conversion flying, which consists of 8 hours of flying, which is your FAM flight, GFT day, GFT night, then IR check. And once you are done with the conversion flying, you submit your documents for CPL. And once you get your CPL, the process is the same. Either you prepare for airline interviews and wait for the CPL vacancies, or you can go for type rating on your preferred aircraft.
Correct. And if doing flight training abroad, then what would be the hours requirement in order to convert the license into DGCA license?
So the R requirement is 200 hours to get a DGCA
Correct.
CPL.
But the split of it, such as, yeah.
So so the split is in 100 hours of PIC is required, pilot in command. So as per DGCA, when you have a student license, it is termed as the solo hours. So the student pilot should be the sole occupant of the aircraft.
Yeah, that is only how you can mark it as PIC according to DGCA.
So once that is done, 100 hours are required, and out of those 100 hours, 50 hours are solo cross country. Okay, and out of those 50 hours, one solo cross country is 300 nautical mile. So you start from one airport and you go to another airport. The first leg should be more than 100 nautical mile, and the second leg and the third leg combined should be 200 nautical mile, and the airport should be a different airport, like the destination, the departure and the destination airport should be different. Okay.
Define cross country according to DGCA.
If you want to go from place A to place B, then place B must be beyond a radius of 100 nautical mile from place of departure, that is place A. And then you can fly to place B. And if you are considering DGCA requirement, then you can even overfly and come back to place A and land, and it is counted as cross country. If you choose to land, it is okay. That will also be considered as cross country, 2 legs of cross country in that case. According to FAA, that is if you're doing flight training in US.
According to FAA, it is not considered as cross country unless you touch down.
Yeah.
So if someone is flying from the US, you have to touch down in order to in order to actually log it as a cross country.
Correct.
Yep. So how to become a pilot? Hours requirement, we jotted down. Conversion, you already mentioned. Actually, the podcast is so much in detail that will also what we'll do is let's try to get a checklist in the description, something like that, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. So after CPL, then once you get your CPL, then you can do your type rating. And there, once you finish your type rating, then depending on airline vacancy, if it's type rated, then definitely you can apply for it. If in case you don't wish to do your type rating and you want to apply in CPL vacancy, then you have an option available and open to you, for any airplane that you are assigned. So that will be, and then after your selection process of CPL, then you can do your type rating. So that is also okay.
Right. Yeah, there are 2 types of vacancies. One is CPL vacancy and one is type rated vacancy. And then, there are experienced pilots vacancies. So CPL vacancy is right after CPL, as the name says. And type rated vacancy is after type rating of that specific airplane. And then experienced pilot vacancy.
Yes, but to reach until the type rating and the airline interview, there is a time frame which is usually around 2 to 2.5 years.
Now it is changed to 7 years.
No, I'm talking about the type rating and the airline.
Type rating validity
No,
is
not
increased.
No. So the time frame, like the time to reach to the type rating
right,
stage.
right. So buffer period, right? Buffer period or
Duration for the training.
Right.
Duration for pilot training until you reach the type rating.
So
or
starting from scratch right after 12th.
or after graduation.
Yeah. Yes. So, okay.
Yeah.
So I think we have covered the process of how to become a pilot now. Now, next is what we have as duration, right?
Duration of
Cost
time.
too,
Yeah.
No, cost.
After that cost. First we'll do
Duration.
yeah, we can do anything like cost,
okay.
duration.
Okay, let's do then.
Because it goes hand in hand. So now when we speak about the duration, so India, you know better, like how does the flight school work? So what do you think is the average duration for pilot training in India?
So it is very important in India to choose the correct flight school where there are more number of airplanes. In my opinion, you should choose that flight school which has at least around 10 airplanes.
For India, it's a lot, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
because if that flight school has those many airplanes and the adequate instructors to fly those, then the flying will happen in approximately about 1.5 year time period or so, from the time you start. But between 1 to 1.5 year, I would say. So if you consider this, then it is good. And if in case you choose a flight school where there are just 2 airplanes, some flight schools may have 1 airplane, okay, or maybe 3-4 airplanes, then it becomes really challenging to complete your flight training in a stipulated time period. I've seen some people who have even taken 4 years or 5 years to complete their flight training, and there's no fun in waiting for so long, because when you start your pilot training, considering yes, you will get a complete it in certain time of 1.5 years or so, and then you look forward to airline vacancy. But if you spend so much time in doing flight training, then you might lose that opportunity.
Right.
So that is the reason you shouldn't choose those flight schools which have less number of airplanes if you choose to do your flight training in India. So that's very, very important. So it can vary considerably depending on whether you are doing it on controlled airport where there are commercial flights operated, or if you are doing it in northern parts of India where flight training is affected significantly during winter season because of fog, especially from November all the way to February. So that is also a part which needs to be taken into account. And then you have to consider, okay, how is the maintenance of the airplanes apart from that number of instructors and all. So this is very important to be taken into account.
All right. Yeah, and then duration for flight training in
US.
abroad, US or
Abroad, like in general, the training duration is 10 to 12 months. Usually students complete their training. So there are certain factors which comes into effect. Like it depends on students' performance. So some students adapt to the training quickly. Some do take certain number of more lessons to get to learn the skill of flying an aircraft. So it depends on students' performance and the weather. Weather is something which is not in our control. So generally, if you see where we did flying in Florida, so it has good weather. Like training can be completed in 10 to 12 months. And then once you come back to India, around 1 to 2 months for your conversion. So overall, within 15 months, you will get your CPL in hand if everything is going according to the plan.
right.
So,
So right after 12th exams, wait until don't have to wait until the results, but have to wait in order to apply for computer number, right? Like that time is around 3 to 4 months.
Meantime,
So
you can-
meantime, you can prepare by studying for the exams, DGCA exams. As soon as they get their computer number issued, then they can appear for the exams.
Correct.
This whole period right after 12th exams would be 6 to 8 months.
Correct.
Right, and after those 6 to 8 months, if you have applied for the visa or selected a flight school in India, then you directly go for flying. That, as you mentioned, in India takes around 15 to
Around-
18 months. As
That
you
is-
mentioned, it's
If you have cleared all your papers, then it should not take more than a year.
right.
So I'm considering right from the time you
Right.
start all the way to finish about 18 months. But if you include, like, if you have completed all your papers, then 1 year is good enough. If you
Understood.
have chosen a correct flight school
Understood.
where there are more
In the US as well, it takes around 12 to 15 months. So average, if we average about this, then 15 months for flight training, 8 months for right after the results, computer number application, medical preparation, and all of those. Preparation for the DGCA exams, if you are doing on demand, then a couple of months is good, 3 months is great, and for 5 papers probably 4 to 5 months is good enough. So that whole period is 8 months right after starting, right after 12th exams. 8 months plus 15 months averaging India and abroad, so we have 23 months, almost 2 years until a person gets their CPL. You have made a detailed video on duration of pilot training, right?
Yes.
So if you want, you can check that out.
That-
Yeah, now 2 years to get CPL. After getting CPL, then type rating. How long does type rating take?
Around 45 to 60 days. 45 to 60 days on an average.
And then the endorsement. Endorsement takes about a month
Month
to
or so,
2 months. So we are talking about 2.5 years approximately.
2.5 years until you complete each and everything from starting from scratch.
So if you speed this up, it can be done in around 2 years as well. It is possible to do it. Average time would be 2 to 2.5 years until you get your type rating endorsed. Now, next is, as soon as the vacancy comes, the selection process goes on for around 6 months itself, like the written tests and then the PILAP or whichever the test that it is, PILAP, Compass, CAS, different types of tests are there depending on airline to airline. Psychometry test is there. Afterwards, there is a group discussion, then there is a personal interview. As long as you pass all of these, you have prepared for all of these well, you will pass it. Okay, as long as everything is in order. This process takes 6 months, and then starts the airline training. Airline training takes another 6 to 8 months. So we are talking about starting from 12th until airline cockpit. Minimum time period would be around 3 to 3.5 years. This does not include buffer period. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So
That is
3 to
correct.
3.5 years. That is to conclude how long does it take to become an airline pilot. Now, next up we have is a cost of pilot training. Yeah. So cost of pilot training. Okay. Who's going for cost of pilot training?
Yeah, so when we speak about cost of pilot training, like let's say we are in the month of February of 2024. So there are 2 phases. One is pilot training from India, pilot training from USA, New Zealand are almost the same. So let's talk about cost of pilot training in India.
Yeah.
So on an average, from a good flying school, if you do your pilot training.
Yeah, that's the cost of flight training.
Yeah,
right?
flight training.
Yeah.
Flight training is around 40 to 45 lakh rupees.
In India.
Yes, and 2 to 2.5 lakh rupees for your ground classes, and then around 30,000 for your medicals, and after that, so this is the cost of pilot training in India,
PPL.
which will
So
And
this would be around 45 to 50 lakh rupees in
CPL.
India. Yes,
Yeah.
for your CPL, and then type rating plus airline training combined would be around 20 to 25. So the overall cost when you do it from India, that's around 65 to 70 lakh rupees until you reach the airline cockpit. Okay, now when you do the training from abroad, it would be around 15 to 20 lakhs additional on top of this, which would be around 85 to 90 lakh rupees.
Yeah, the reason for it being expensive is actually cost per flying hour in abroad countries is pretty much same as India, or it can even be lesser. The point is accommodation and cost of living is more, so that, and then air tickets, visas, and all the costs associated with that, those are more than that of flying in India. So it goes around 15 lakh rupees over what the cost is in India. So 85 to 90 lakh rupees can also go up to 95 lakh rupees if you are flying from abroad.
Including type rating.
Including type rating.
Yeah.
This is,
So if we
including
talk about, you can
every,
give a split of CPL.
yeah.
And then like how much flight training?
Yeah,
how
so
much
flight
accommodation
training would go
approximately?
around 60 to 65 lakh rupees if you are flying from abroad, say US. And then type rating is around
Including
15.
accommodation.
Yes,
Including accommodation. Yes.
And
Then
conversion.
Yeah, conversion would be around 5 to 7 lakh rupees.
3
yeah.
lakh rupees.
Say if
Yeah.
you consider on higher side, like if
Yes,
someone
yes.
requires recency as well, then 5 to 7 lakh rupees. So we are at around 70 lakh rupees mark, and then 25 lakh rupees for type rating and airline training. So type rating is 15 to 18 lakh rupees. Airline training can be around 10 lakh rupees. So 95 lakh rupees is approximate.
Correct.
Okay. Now, countries to countries, this can vary a little bit, 5 lakh rupees plus or minus. Okay. Actually minus, like other countries may be cheaper. Okay. Like New Zealand maybe 5 lakh rupees cheaper, and the US would be 5 lakh rupees, 95 lakh rupees if it is from US, right?
90 lakh rupees would be a good thing.
Right.
And it is again variable. So when we speak about pilot training in India and abroad, right? So in India, mostly all the students get their CPL in around 200 hours. But in US, until you acquire the skill of a commercial pilot, license holder, you won't be given that license. So some students may take longer to acquire that skill. So that is one variable factor. Second is the rate of dollar or the respective currency. So the fluctuations in the foreign currency, okay, that also increase or decreases. So always
Absolutely.
keep a buffer of 5 lakh rupees.
Absolutely.
So 90 to 95 you can assume, including your visa, accommodation, flight tickets, medicals, conversion, and everything.
So type rating costs that we are mentioning are for Boeing 737 or Airbus A320. Okay, type rating costs for ATR, Q400, all those airplanes are different actually. But these 15 to 18 lakh rupees type rating cost is for 737 or Airbus A320.
Yeah.
Now, once you are done with this, yes, you are eligible to apply for airlines for type rated vacancies. Now, cadet pilot training costs are little bit more than this. Okay, cadet pilot abroad pathway is around 1 crore 5 lakhs to 1 crore 10 lakh rupees depending on FTOs. This includes type rating, this includes CPL training. Okay, all of these things
Includes everything.
Yeah, includes everything. No, not personal expenses such as medicals are not included into it. Flight tickets are not included into
No,
it.
it is included.
Flight ticket is included.
Yeah.
Which,
So it keeps on changing. L3 has flight tickets now.
oh, okay.
Even
Okay.
HTA has flight tickets.
Okay. Is it business class?
So this, so the inclusions and exclusions keep on changing every year as per the contract. If I tell you in dollars, like say pilot training in USA, it would be around $140,000 to $150,000 for cadet pilot program.
Understood. Yeah, so total cost of cadet pilot program in the US would be around 1 crore 5 lakh rupees to 1 crore 10 lakh rupees. this is depending on current dollar rate, which is around 83 to 85, depending on at what conversion rate you acquire dollar. It can vary around 10% plus and minus. Now, Australian Cadet Pilot program is, what is it?
Around 1.
Around 1 crore. But some of these include food, some of these do not include food, and food is expensive in abroad countries. That is where it is at. Okay. Now, Domestic Cadet Pilot program. Domestic Cadet Pilot program is almost same as international conventional pathway. Goes around 90 to 95 lakh
yes.
rupees. So international conventional and domestic cadet, they cost pretty much the same. Yeah, that's cost of pilot training.
Correct.
Yeah. Now we are done with duration. Yep.
And the cost. So now when we speak about the cost,
Yeah.
we also speak about the salaries. Right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Absolutely.
Because when you
that,
take a loan, you always have a calculation to repay that loan.
That's
For
the
sure.
brightest part, and that's
yeah.
what everyone is looking forward to listen to.
were
So,
you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
the what we can do is we can relate the career progression with the salaries.
Yeah. Sure.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So this is your area
Yes.
to discuss about, to talk about.
Absolutely. So, career progression in airline, right from junior first officer all the way to captain, we will discuss in short. In this, when you join an airline and when you sign that contract as when you join an airline, you sign a contract and you are on a payroll. Payroll means your salary starts on that day. And that time you are appointed as a junior first officer. If you are a CPL holder with type rating, then you join as JFO. So you will be undergoing ground training with airline. So that's when your airline training starts. So junior first officer is that phase when you are not yet released to fly as a first officer on normal flights. So that is called as line flying. So when you are under training, then there will be ground training phase in which there are a lot of airline procedures you will be learning theoretically. Followed by that, there will be simulator training in which there will be low visibility operations, then supervised takeoff.
Tell us the
landing
money.
training. So
Tell us the
that-
money.
yes. So around that time, when you are a junior first officer, that phase goes on between 6 months to 1 year, depending on airline to airline and at what rate the training is going on. And the salary around that time is approximately 1 lakh. So these are approximate salaries. It can vary from airline to airline.
This
And
goes
time
on
to
for how
time.
long?
And this goes on between for 6 to
12
6
months.
months to 12 months. So once you are line released to fly as a first officer, then your designation is first officer, and that's when you get about 2 lakhs approximately, 2,20,000, depending on again airline to airline and the policy at that time. Thereafter, you fly as a first officer. You continue to do that until then you clear your ATPL exams in meantime, and then that's when your salary will be more. That's when you are a senior first officer. Again, in this, some airlines have policy of after you do 1,000 hours, then the salary would be more, or so that is very much individual depending on airline. Once you are a senior first officer, that's when you have cleared your ATPL exams as well as you have met requirement of ATPL license. That will be approximately by the time you get 2,000 hours of experience. When you gain that much experience and you have ATPL license, then you are a senior first officer. So then salary is approximately 3.5 to 4 lakhs. So that's you fly with as a senior first officer for few more months, and then depending on airline policy, you are eligible to become a captain. That's when you have to appear for the airline interview, and there is a airline written exam or interview depending on the policy again. So this phase, right from release as a first officer till the time you become a senior first officer, goes on for approximately 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
Lowest you can say 2 years, highest it could be some people, if they take time to clear ATPL exams, then it can go on and on. So 2 to 3 years on an average time period, I would say. And then you can once you're a senior first officer and you apply for captain, then you will be under training if you clear all those assessments. So that training for a captain also lasts for about 5 to 6 months, in which again there will be simulator, then there will be actual aircraft training on the actual aircraft. So there will be line training, that is supervised line flying, and then there will be checks. So after all that rigorous training, then you're finally a captain. So as a captain, then the salary hike from SFO to captain, you will really find it is a significant increment in salary that goes up to 7.5 to 8 lakhs on an average. And there are various contracts depending on the contract that you choose. Salary would vary. So more number of leaves, lesser salary, and vice versa. Obviously, that is if you
And
are
this
available.
is without overtime. So when
Yes,
you
this is without overtime.
Yeah.
And
this is pre-tax.
yes, after deduction of tax, then you have to,
Yeah,
obviously
figure out.
TDS needs to be deducted from
Not
the salary.
TDS. I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
All these figures are excluding overtime and before tax deduction.
Yeah.
So after tax deduction, it will be slightly lesser than this. Apart from that, once you are a captain and if you fly overtime, then it can go even up to 11-12 lakhs also.
Wow.
Okay, so it depends on how much you fly in that particular month, and how is your roster and which base are you flying, a lot of other variables. So that's about salary and career progression. And approximately it takes about 3 to 5 years to become a captain from the time you are line released to fly as a first officer.
Okay.
So it's a pretty
What is a
shorter duration.
layover allowance?
Layover allowance for international layovers, it's more. For domestic layovers, it is pretty less. So it's not so significant for domestic layovers. So
It varies from airline to airline.
yeah, it varies from yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So salaries and until what age pilots can work?
Until age of 65, as long as they are medically fit,
Okay.
pilots can continue to fly as a whatever, first officer or a captain. But by that time, most of them would be captain.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that can be one reason to become a pilot.
Yes.
Can
absolutely.
be, not necessarily be.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We've been talking for 3 hours now almost.
2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah, 2
Yeah.
hours. Yeah. But no, before that we were discussing.
Yeah, that.
So
Yeah.
3 hours. Yeah. Now, yeah, I need to. Cool. So
Yep.
this point I added into this discussion was because this podcast is for you to make a decision or for you to make your proclivity whether you want to become a pilot or not. So the reason to suggest this point was anytime someone chooses a career, say someone chooses to become a doctor, or say someone chooses to become a computer engineer. In our early times, computer engineer was a trend, right?
Yeah, everyone used to become
Yeah.
a computer engineer.
Because the industry size was growing, right? There were more jobs created in that specific industry. Like doctors can always become doctors because the population is growing. That is the industry size. Everyone who's breathing requires a doctor, right? Yeah. Same goes with aviation, that for anyone to make a decision whether to or not to invest so much money and choose this path is aviation industry in India is growing.
Definitely.
Right, it is
100%.
growing rapidly. This is one of the significant reasons for which we ask students that become a pilot in India. This is, I mean, becoming a pilot abroad is way too difficult because they have to figure out their work permits and everything. But the core reason is Indian aviation is growing so rapidly that what it is within 5 years or so, or what it is, like Indian aviation industry will be third largest industry in
It
the
is
world.
already.
It is already. So it is growing to be on second or something.
It is already third largest aviation market in the world.
So first is
US.
US, second
China.
is China, third
And
is India. Yeah.
And the order book of the Indian
Yeah.
Airlines are number one. Like no one has placed this
Exactly.
many orders.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes.
Like
in
largest
India, collectively, we have placed in Indian Airlines in India have placed 1,000 plus aircraft orders in 2023, which is the largest aircraft order placed by any
Yeah.
country.
Now
in
the
a year.
FDTL requirement is
Has
changed.
changed.
So the number of pilots
Pilots.
required per
About 14 to 15 per
14 to
airplane.
15 per
Yeah.
airplane, and even if we consider say 1200 airplanes are on order for next 10 years, meaning if we divide it, it's at least we could consider that 70-80 airplanes being inducted into Indian aviation industry every single year, because eventually the rate will go on increasing because
Correct.
aircraft manufacturers production capacity will increase with time, and the delivery rate will increase, and industry will grow in like exponential manner. So initially, at least for coming 3 years or so, we can consider 80 to 90 airplanes being inducted into industry.
Correct.
So say 15 pilots per airplane, meaning those many pilots are at least say 1,500 pilots per year are required in Indian aviation industry. Now, how many licenses are being issued? Last year, India issued DGCA issued 1,600 licenses.
In 2023.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yes, there is fair bit of competition. It's not like it is competition free market. No. So, you have to be good. There is no doubt
Absolutely.
about that. It is not going to be easy. There is no doubt about that. But it will definitely be worth it, is what we mean, right? So that is how it is. And if you are good, yeah, there is no problem about jobs, at least speaking right now in 2024.
Correct.
That is the size of the industry.
So what I believe is like when you go for interview, there will always be competition in each and every field. And right now, if you are someone who is a pilot, who is a CP leader, or who is aspiring to be one, if you know what to study, if you work on yourself to make that personality, and then you appear for the interview, in the first interview you will be selected. Okay, because there is a need of pilot. It's not that okay, there are thousands of pilots available and only they have to select 10 or 15 of them. Earlier it used to be like that, right? But now as the Indian aviation industry is growing, the number of pilot required is also growing. So as the number of pilot required is more, the chances of you getting the airline, if you do the right thing, is more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So the times are good. How long they'll last, don't know. Okay, probably for quite some time. But still, if you are good and if you persist with your studies, if you keep yourself up to date, there is no reason in today's date not to get a job in Indian aviation industry. That's what it is. yeah, anything else on this topic?
Yeah.
I think we're good.
Yes.
Yep. Now, this was the information based upon which they may choose to decide
Decide.
for themselves whether you want to or not want to become a pilot. It is not our place to decide for you. Okay. So that decision you have to make for yourself, because that is the decision that you make about your career for your rest of your life. And yeah, make that decision. You want to do this is a great career, we chose it for ourselves. You want to do something else, that's completely up to you. Okay, we are not here to influence you into becoming a pilot or telling you to become a pilot or not to become a pilot. We are just here to lay down facts and information about pilot career. That's what this is about. Now, if you choose to become a pilot, then give it your 100%, because there is a lot at stake, right?
Definitely.
That's
And
Yeah.
plus, whenever, let's say, you are speaking with your parents and you know your parents' financial capability, like how much they could arrange funds for your pilot training. So, we don't advise or we don't recommend anyone to pressurize their parents to fund them for the pilot training.
In
If
case if
yeah,
it is,
in case if
it is complex.
Yes. So what in that case you can do is you can go for a degree, you can work for a couple of years, save money, and then you can start your pilot training. So we have so many students who work who work in different fields, earn money, save money, and then go for pilot training. So it is possible as well, but the time required for that would be around 10 years. Okay. So that is one way which people select if they are really passionate to become a pilot, and if they have decided 100% that they'll become a pilot.
Yep.
And you can still, at the age of 27, 28 also,
Yes.
can still, decide to become a pilot if you wish to, and if you have that strong desire to, do this profession and start career in this profession. So the maximum age as an ab initio pilot to start an airline job is 35 years. As a CPL holder, if you're type rated, then it can be 37 years. In some airlines only it is about 30 years.
30, 32.
But,
And it all
that's,
depends upon
it depends on
the vacancies and demand and supply at that stage.
Yeah, lately there was a vacancy especially for women pilots,
Yeah.
and the age requirement was
40.
40 years.
40.
Yeah.
That just came now, like
Yeah.
now.
Correct.
Yeah, that was
And,
impressive. Yep.
And even if you want to do your, that even if the age is not on your side, considering all these criterias, then you can choose to become an instructor, gain experience, gain about 2,000 hours of, training students. And thereafter, if you have ATPL with you, and with 2,000 hours of experience, then you can apply in airline as experienced pilot, as a senior first officer. So in that case, this age requirement and age bar will not apply. It is only for your first airline job.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a great career, guys. And decide for yourself whatever that you like. And it was nice having you. If you are an aspiring pilot, okay, we'll try to put together this with a checklist or something of that sort. That will be mentioned in the link. That'll help you summarize this whole episode. Stay tuned. This was a pretty long conversation. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for your attention. And we'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Okay.
Absolutely.
If you are an aspiring pilot, sign up for CNTAA where we help aspiring pilots for the DGCA exams. Okay, we as in Capt.Neha helps, okay? I and Chintan don't teach for the DGCA exams. We sit here on Pilot Podcast and share our experiences. That's what we do, okay? Thank you for joining, listening, and subscribing.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the podcast till here. And yeah, if you are someone who is currently appearing for 12th exams, all the best. And as soon as you are done with your 12th exams, and if you are willing to become a pilot, we'll be more than happy to help you.
Good luck, guys, on your 12th exams if you are appearing for those.
Wish you all the very best for your 12th and do well.
Stay